All right, everybody, it does look like we are about ready to get started here. So I want to thank you all for taking some time to look through this today. What we have here is some exclusive tips from Hover users, folks who have been out in the field using our application. We actually had an opportunity to speak to a couple of different companies who have been out there using our program. I'm really excited for the kind of results that they've been getting, and especially excited to be able to share that with all you folks today here. So feel free to, if you have any questions, I won't be able to hear you, but feel free to type in any questions that you do have. It's a little questions box down there, and we'll, do our best to answer those as we go, stopping periodically throughout the process here. And then as we get to the end of the call, we'll take some time to address any of the outstanding questions or anything else that comes up for you guys throughout the course of the presentation here. So definitely do appreciate y'all bearing with me and hanging in there here. All right. So just a little background on myself. My name's Sam Moriel. I'm an account executive here at Hover. I've been with Hover since January of 2016. Started right along the time that we had brought on multiple material partners here. So it's been, a wild ride since then, kind of going through the ups and downs as we've been getting things together, but really excited for the results that we've been able to get for our clients here. Lately, we've been hearing a lot more of our clients, essentially selling more jobs, closing a higher percentage of their opportunities with more revenue per job. So growing their profit margins along the way. Definitely some really exciting stuff that we're excited to continue into 2018 here. For those of you not familiar, if you're, haven't had much experience with the Hover app, Hover is a platform that transforms smartphone photos into a fully measured, customizable 3D model. It's going to save time that contractors would spend measuring, but also provide a competitive advantage to help the contractors actually go out there and win more business. The way that we do that is with accurate exterior measurements. Plus or minus 5% of the lineal measurements is what we publish in terms of our degree of accuracy that we bring to the table. We often find that it's even much better than that. And on top of giving you a full, granular, detailed PDF takeoff for each home that you go out and process, we're going to give you an interactive 3D model that not only is going to provide you with interactive measurements, but also with design capabilities. So that 3D model allows the homeowner to see what the house is actually going to look like with the new materials installed on it. Something that's going to be a common theme throughout today, I'm sure you guys will notice as we're moving along through this, something that's definitely been a huge piece to helping our clients grow their business and close a higher percentage of the deals, starting with Benson Properties. So Benson is actually a contractor that serviced the Minnesota and Wisconsin market. Ann Benson is actually running the operations over there. And when we heard she was running things, we jumped at the chance to pick her brain, especially being that this is, by all accounts, a very male-dominated industry. I'm sure that's going to, come as no surprise to anybody on the line today here. But Ann actually started this business with her husband. The two of them actually have 40 years of experience in the industry between them. So about 5 years ago, they started up and have since kind of grown into a successful full-service contractor. They really specialize in restoration and storm damage remediation. In fact, their mission is to provide a high-quality customer experience to those unfortunate folks who had to suffer from storm damage to their home. Definitely not a pleasant situation to be in for anyone that's ever been there. And the folks at Benson have resolved to make that a positive experience for the homeowner. And a big piece of that was leveraging Hover as a means for them to basically save time in the sales and production processes. So if you look at Minnesota, those of you, if you know anything about the Minnesota-Wisconsin market, it's typically characterized by weather extremes. You get wide-ranging temperature fluctuations, huge windstorms, hailstorms, thunderstorms. They get blizzards, they get ice. They get all the nasty stuff that we don't want to deal with. And so the homeowners up there are certainly no strangers to storm damage, and especially the major headaches that go along with the post-storm damage experience. It's a lot of hassle. Dealing with the insurance companies, multiple contractors, hearing different things from different folks. And Hover has made it real easy for the folks at Benson to alleviate that pain for the homeowners, something that clearly very important to them. What they say of Minnesota is they call it the land of 10,000 lakes. Uh, if you talk to Ann Benson, she'll tell you it's the land of 10,000 contractors. And, certainly that couldn't be more true. If you've ever been up around the area, you know that things are competitive, especially competitive in the damage remediation space across the Minnesota and Wisconsin markets. So this 3D modeling capability is a huge piece of what allows Benson to stand head and shoulders above the competition. Being that it's such a cutthroat marketplace, any differentiator they can get is going to be a huge piece of them winning more business. And really, that's the cornerstone of their ability to turn a negative experience into a positive, even an exciting time for the homeowners in a lot of these situations. The reason being that homeowners now have the ability to make their decisions right on the spot. They don't really have to agonize over what they're going to do with new materials, which certainly was a problem for homeowners before Hover. Up until that time, really the best that they could do was share the address with a homeowner. Hey, here's a job that we had recently installed with some similar materials, similar color profile, whatever it is that the customer likes. So then the homeowner would jump in their car and go drive around to those properties, see what the products look like in real life. And certainly that wasn't going all the way for the homeowner. What it would do is it would cost them time. It would cost them money and fuel, driving around, looking at different houses. And despite all the effort, it would still leave them short. They'd still have to struggle to imagine, what's my house going to look like with those materials on it? My house is not your house. They're not cookie cutter. It's not something that we can just paint with broad strokes. I want to see what my home's going to look like with the new materials installed. And certainly, I know for myself, speaking for myself, that I'm not a guy who has a $20,000, $30,000 good imagination. I don't expect most homeowners do either. So this is something that's going to make it a lot easier for them to be happy with the decision that they make from square one. When you talk to the folks at Benson, they'll tell you the homeowner's happiness is key to everything that they do. They never want to rush the decision-making process. So since they started showing the homeowners that 3D model, what the house is going to look like with different products and different colors, those homeowners can confidently make a decision right on the spot. So they can just start repairing the house a week earlier than they otherwise would have, saving that 7 days of driving around from one site to the next site, kind of trying to press through their imagination. What's this color going to look like with that roof? And on the other hand, the homeowners could otherwise just be impressed with the speed that they get started with the installation process once it's been so easy for them to actually make the right decision for them. So on top of that, they can get done with it and on to the next one much quicker, and really help to maximize their effect in a storm damage situation, so they can reach out and touch as many houses as possible. Now, of course, being able to get those measurements is important. Getting accurate measurements, getting measurements fast, these are going to be important things. And really accurate measurements in a hurry means one thing for the folks at Benson, and that is efficiency. They don't have to pay a measurement tech to go out there and verify the insurance company's takeoffs anymore. They used to be commonplace. It used to be every time they went out to quote a job, they would get a takeoff from the insurance company. They have a guy, usually I'd end up spending all day walking around. And that's what they had to put in to gather all the measurements they needed. Full day of pulling the tape across the property and getting all that data. They cut it down to about 10 minutes to generate that quote. And on top of that, they've been able to shave, an additional 15 minutes off the process to build the material list. So, 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there, it really adds up over the course of 1,000 jobs in a year. Something that they definitely notice when we look at the rock bottom numbers here. We see that final tally. We see the kind of time that they're saving throughout their sales process by helping customers decide right on the spot instead of driving around to this job site and the next job site and the next job site, agonizing over that decision. They're saving about 7 days throughout that process for the homeowners on average. And not to mention eliminating a full day's worth of gathering the measurements, shaving 15 minutes off of 1,000 different material lists built, throughout the course of a year. When you really start to look at these numbers in the big picture over the scope of 1,000 jobs, it's really not hard to see why Benson Properties is a proud member of the Hover family at this point. Which brings us on to our next testimonial here. We actually had the opportunity to speak with Dan May, who's the operations manager over at Greiman Construction Services. which Greiman Construction Services, they're actually based out of northern Iowa. A little bit different of an environment from Minnesota and Wisconsin. Not far away geographically, but more characterized by the big rolling plains, cornfields, a lot of wide open spaces. So Greiman specializes in residential and commercial roofing and exterior remodeling. So more remodeling than the remediation side of it. And Dan's been around Greiman for about 2 years now. So since they started using Hover in 2016, he's been able to take a front row seat to watch how the company's operations have really taken off here. Since they made the move away from aerial imaging in 2016, Greiman's been able to dramatically shorten their sales cycle. I mean, so much that they found the time to run 4 additional leads per day on average. So pretty powerful time saver right there. And when you consider, again, those rolling plains, those cornfields, that's going to bring along inevitably a lot of windshield time, a lot of time spent sitting in the car, driving to remote properties. And on top of that, once you get out to those remote properties, being that it's so sparsely populated and everything's so spread out, that really affects the coverage for aerial imagery providers. So then these guys end up going out there and still spending many hours manually pulling a tape across a house because aerial imagery providers are, they lack the data to deliver those measurements. Whether it be because things are just too spread out and too isolated, or whether it be because things are too obstructed from tree coverage or any of those different things. There's a number of reasons why they just couldn't rely on aerial imagery on a regular basis. Now, because Hover uses ground level images exclusively, taken right from the job site, we never lack the data to deliver on a job. That means that when they go out to a job site, they can confidently count on us anytime, regardless of how remote the location is, which has really allowed them to get a grip on some of these major time sinks that they would experience. So in addition to all the travel time that it's saving the reps just going back and forth to a house, using Hover's actually reduced the time that it takes for them to go out there and measure by about 45 minutes each time. So, that 10 minutes of walking around taking pictures as opposed to, nearly an hour pulling a tape across a house over the course of the season is really going to add up. And much like our friends over at Benson, the sales team at Greiman has noticed the major difference in that sales cycle. Again, we don't want customers to need to rely on their imagination to make a $20,000 to $30,000 decision. That's just flat out an uncomfortable process. What they've been able to do by leveraging Hover into this process is remove doubts for the homeowner, which again allows them to confidently decide within about 15 minutes. So that's eliminated the inefficiency of 2 to 3 follow-up appointments that was really commonplace in their workflow prior to Hover. So they go out and they'd meet with the homeowner and say, hey, here's a few different colors, and the homeowner would maybe be stuck between 2 things. They'd have a sales guy going out, driving all over Iowa to meet with these guys 2, 3 additional times more than they needed to, just so the customer can get to a spot where they're comfortable with what they're getting from a colors and products perspective. Now, being able to use that 3D model, not only are they able to make those decisions faster, but, ask anybody over at Greiman and they'll tell you that this is a major differentiator from the other contractors in the area that they compete with, in that they look so much more professional than those organizations that lack this capacity. When they're able to pull up, here's a 3D model of your house, here it is with different materials on it, and hey, by the way, here's the measurements to show you that this is where we're getting our numbers from. We're not just taking a guess at it. We're not just fudging the numbers here. This is all based on this third-party data set that we invest in to bring you a better buying experience and make sure that we're more accurate. Something that really resonates with homeowners, because as efficient as it is to be, or as important as it is rather to be efficient throughout the sales process, it's equally important to be efficient with your supply chain. And for the folks at Greiman, not only are they saving more than an hour creating a quote and a material list, but they can also trust that they order the exact amount of material that they need for every product or every project once they take a look over their Hover report. When we spoke to Dan, he made a point that they'd often find the aerial companies would leave them short because, they miss areas that are hidden by overhangs or obstructions. He actually went on to say that since they've started using Hover, that they've never been short on a material list and thus no longer need to make multiple trips to the supplier. And leave alone making the multiple trips to the supplier, but that means you don't have to order material to be shipped out from distribution, which can really, really slow up the process when you're midway through a job and come to find out that, you have to take a pause here because you don't have enough material. And now the next guy that you can get material from, is over in a different part of the state that's going to be hours away. And even still, they're going to be waiting on a shipment of this material that you were using. It turns into a big giant headache, which, it's massive to be able to save that headache by just ordering the right amount of materials in the first place. Any project manager will tell you how much hair that saved them just to be able to order accurately to begin with. So again, these numbers are going to be powerful for the folks over at Greiman as well. We're creating the efficiency for them to run 4 more leads per day, which in itself is pretty massive. Shaving a total hour and 45 minutes off the process to measure a property, formulate a quote. Certainly that's going to add up pretty quickly, but the most compelling number on this page is 2. The number 2 is in 2x, as in the folks at Greiman have doubled their profits in the time since joining Hover. I mean, you really can't get a more powerful number than that. That's actually allowed them to open up, you guessed it, not 1, but 2 new office locations, which that's the kind of success that we love to celebrate over here. We really view ourselves as partners with the people that we work with. And for that reason, when we see our clients and we see the people that work with us having success, that's something we take an awful lot of pride in. So, as such, we'd love to hear your success stories. Please feel free to let us know about those things, times that you've used Hover and, seen the positive results for yourself and what kind of results we've seen in, within your business. We're always looking for that stuff. We love to hear those things, and especially any feedback that you have for, new ideas, cool things that you'd love to see come up in the Hover platform. One thing about who we are that's in our DNA is that we dare to build. That means we never stop improving. We never stop pushing the envelope and driving innovation forward. And as such, we're excited to roll out a couple of new features here. One available right now is actually Hover Now. What it's basically going to do is get you a rough square footage estimate of the roof within 30 minutes of submitting the photos. We want something for folks who operate in more of a one-call environment to be able to succeed the way that they're comfortable doing business already. So the Hover Now is going to allow, the contractors to go out to the job site, take their set of photos, and from some organizations that we have testing this, the results have been fantastic and often come back in as little as 10 minutes. So really a big step for us as we're moving towards a full instantaneous automation of our processes. This is a big step in that direction to be able to get you that square footage nearly instantaneously. So let us know if that's something that you'd be interested in testing out, as it is available now for you guys who are on the Hover platform, as well as Design version 2. Now, this isn't quite live yet, but I know it's something that people have been clamoring for, certainly since I started here with Hover. Obviously, the ability to click and make changes from a design standpoint without having to do any masking or sketching, it's great. That ease of use, it's something that you can turn right over to the homeowners, let them play around with, let them fully immerse themselves into. But now, one thing that a lot of companies had asked for is the ability to section off separate facades and say, we want to just do a board and batten around the sides and back and keep lap around the front. Okay, well, that's a possibility now with Design version 2, where you can section off one portion of the siding and make material changes there. You can isolate the gable with a band board and put shakes up in the gables, or use that band board feature to section off the lower quarter of the front facade and put some stone assets right there and show a customer what stacked stone look is going to look like on the front of their house. So those type of things are now going to be a possibility with Design version 2, which is something that we expect to roll out very early in the new year. Really excited for that, and definitely looking forward to getting all your feedback on the Design version 2 platform. So getting started here, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have experience with the program, have gone out and utilized it. And what we found is, even those of us, those contractors who have been out there and been using it in the field, a lot of times there's more that we can be doing for you. So, please don't hesitate to reach out to us to set up a private on-site or web training. We really find that this is one of the best resources that we have to help train and enable your teams to maximize your return on the investment in this program. We have an outside sales team that is more than happy to meet with your team anytime to help go over these things. And if you're if you're busy and you don't have time to herd all the cats together and get everybody in one room at the same time, because we know how tough that can be, we're more than happy to do remote web trainings as well. Whatever it takes for us to help maximize your return on investment in our program. So I'm gonna take a moment here to go through any questions that have been asked. That's about it for me at this point, but just feel free to reach out with any questions. I do see that we have some coming in here, and we'll just try and stay out in front of those. The first one here, will we have access to the webinar after the presentation? That's a great question. So yeah, you guys will actually be getting an email within the next 24 hours. That's going to have a link to the recorded webinar here today. So keep an eye out for that, and we'll have that available for you here. How much does the hover cost? Is a really great question. So we bill a little bit differently than other companies in this space, because frankly, we have a much different set of data that we're gathering and a much different process for our system to build these models and measurements take off. So we actually base our cost on the complexity of the roof. And the way we do that is we bill by the number of roof facets. So 80% of the homes that we process, actually a little bit over that, are going to fall within 1 to 16 roof facets. I do want to let you guys know that we only start counting something towards a facet for billing purposes if it's 4 square feet or above. So little crickets, gable returns, small little eyebrows and things like that aren't going to factor into your facet count. We don't want to hold that stuff against you. So again, upwards of 80% of the jobs that we process fall into the 1 to 16 roof facets category. Those roof deliverables are going to be about $20, $35 for anything that's 1 to 5 facets. You'll see the $20 price. 5 to 16 facets, you see that $35 price. And then for the completes in that range, you'll be looking at $30 for anything 1 to 4 facets on the roof, and then $50 for anything that's 5 to 16 facets on the roof is the cost for those complete jobs. Up above that, you'll see a bucket of 17 to 22 facets is going to be a complex job. We certainly see a lot fewer of those than the 1 to 16 facets variety. But those you'll see the price go up a little bit. You're looking at, for the roof onlys there, either $60 or $80 for the complete. And then when we're looking at the larger jobs than that, 23 facets and above, what we consider to be custom jobs, you would be looking at, for a complete, $110, and just for the roof only, you'd be looking at more about $80. So that's how we break everything up here as far as the billing is concerned. One question about the average turnaround time and how fast these jobs come back. So what we'll tell you is game plan for 24 hours. You want to give yourself 24 hours because it can take up to 24 hours for us to get these back to you. But lately, all of our deliverables have been coming back within 2 to 4 hours. So you'll find the vast majority of your full complete jobs are going to come back much, much faster. But, that being said, always give yourself that 24-hour window there between taking those photos and your appointment with the homeowner, just so we're never cutting it too awfully close there. And good pictures will definitely contribute to faster turnaround times. You get out what you put in a sense. So getting the higher quality higher quality photos will help the job turn around much faster. One of the questions is if there's a plan to pay annually and get unlimited reports. So that's a really good question. We don't have anything like that right now. The way that the reports work out is that it's always billed on a job-by-job basis and based around the complexity of the roof. So you can get some additional bonus cash if you do prepay a large amount for jobs. We do have some additional features that you can subscribe to that'll help you to get more value out of this overall. But at the end of the day, one building equals one job, and we'll always charge it on a job-by-job basis. There was a question about integration and if there's an integrated system that we can use to print quotes. right directly on the site. So that's actually something that's coming soon. We're working out a full estimator that you plug in the materials that you're going to be using, and it's all going to be integrated right there. So it'll show you exactly what the materials that you're going to install on that job, exactly what you need from a material standpoint to get the job installed correctly. So at this point, what we do is we just provide you the base measurements there, all your lineal data, all your square footages that you need, and then you can also get that in an Excel or an XML file. You can manually load that XML file into various CRM systems that'll help you to kind of break that stuff down. But at this point, we don't have any direct integrations built, and that's something that we'll be looking to roll out some in the future. We just actually had a question come through about a timeline for when we'll be able to measure like townhouses, row houses. So at this point, we typically specialize in the single-family residential type jobs. Those multifamily residential jobs is something that we can talk about as we do have the ability to do some of that stuff now, and we're just rolling that out. So we'll go ahead and follow up with you. Let me know if you guys do a lot of multifamily and commercial jobs, so we can follow up after the fact to kind of go over the terms, what's involved with that. One of the questions is when we'll have more products introduced into the system. That's a work in progress right now. We're talking to a number of different manufacturers in the roofing and siding spaces to roll out some new products into the app. So we should start to see some updates early next year. Just keep an eye on that. Definitely excited for what's going to be going on, what's going to be added into the app. One of the questions was about diamond coat colors here. As I'm sure you guys have noticed, you have LP Smart Side colors in there right now. That's what they've provided to us through LP, so we're limited to the Smart Side color palette for siding as far as that's concerned. And hopefully diamond coat will be not too far down the road there. Let's see. Question about requesting additional training. Yes, absolutely. We can do additional training. Reach out to our support team right through the number up on your screen right now. Let them know if you're looking for some additional training, and then we can follow up to set up either a training webinar or an on-site meeting. But either way, we like to do just a quick little breakdown ahead of time to sort of come up with a tailor-fit solution for your team, so we can make sure that you guys just jump right into getting the best results. One question here: can you take a detached garage and fit that in with the home on the same job? That's a really good question here. The way that our system is going to work, it's going to be one building equals one job. So as far as your sheds, detached garages, you guys got to make a business decision at that point whether it's worth it for you to have the measurements and the 3D rendering of it, or whether you want to walk that off and throw a basic quote at the garage. Typically, you're going to have a lot more primitive structure, not so complex, not a whole lot that goes into it. So sometimes you might just forego taking the pictures of a garage, frankly, because that would be a separate charge to have that process, where the main house is almost always going to be much, much more complex. And at the very least, there's a point to doing it from a sales perspective, where you can sit down with a homeowner with that 3D model and actually use that 3D model to your advantage. More so, that's much more powerful, we find, with the main house than necessarily with the garage. The garage might be a spot where you do like a roof only or something along those lines. Commercial and multifamily properties. So, as I said, we can start doing some of those multifamily properties. The commercial, we're still functioning on just a little bit more basic of commercial properties when we do, dive into any of that. One thing that a lot of commercial properties will be looking at that doesn't necessarily fit with the way that our system works is like flat roofs. We can certainly give you the square footage of a flat roof. That's no problem. Where any issue might come in is when we're talking about the parapet wall depth, because of the way that our system's built to take those pictures. We're not going to be able to gauge the depth for a parapet wall from the ground level, which would be one of the only real limitations as we get into the more commercial type properties. One question came in about new construction, and absolutely, we can do new construction type jobs. One thing to be aware of as pertains to the new construction jobs is that when we're talking about new construction, the way that our system works, it's overlaying algorithmic data onto the images as they come in through the photo or through the camera. When we're talking about new construction jobs, one thing that's really important for consistency's sake is that the home be weather tight, meaning it's, it's all framed, wrapped, it's got windows and doors all totally installed on it. And then at that point, we can go out and we can take, a full 3D model of it. That'll allow you to go through and change some different materials on there so that the homeowner can make a final decision as far as what they want to have installed, what they're looking for from a visual aspect before they move in. That's usually the biggest way that new construction contractors will utilize us. One question was if you take extra pictures because you think they'll be useful, is there any higher fee for that? So great question. There is no additional fee for taking additional photos. The way that we look at it is your first 8 photos you want to take, I don't want to say bird's eye view, but kind of backed up, whatever you're doing, you want to make sure that all the edges of the structure fit within the frame, fit within that photo, because we're going to be using those edges to gauge all of our algorithmic data off of. So you take your first 8 photos, capturing each corner, each straight-on facade, getting as complete of pictures as possible. Some of those pictures might include some obstructions. Some things might not be clearly visible from that set of pictures, little U-shaped setback in the back of the house where, you can't really see what's going on there. You can go take some additional photos to fill in the blanks. You actually have the ability to do up to 32 additional photos, so 40 total photos at the very most to kind of fill in the blanks for yourself. What our system will do, now when you put in more photos, it's more for the system to process, so it can kind of extend those turnaround windows a little bit. So the system will go through, it'll gauge any photo that's got pertinent data that it can't grab from another, and it'll use just as many photos as it needs. So you'll go out and take 8 photos for a job sometimes and see that we used 4 of them because we had 2 perfect opposing corner shots, a front, a back, and that's all we needed. So the system will use the bare minimum amount of data that it can to verify a level of accuracy when returning these jobs to you, if that makes sense. One of the questions, are we planning on adding churches? Churches are one of those things that come up into that commercial box for us. So it kind of varies how those are treated. Some of them are going to be much more complex than others. If you're going out looking at a huge mega church that's stadium sized and has, big, huge, tall spires and a lot of, different angles and crazy cut up roof, the odds that we'll be able to process that are going to be pretty slim as compared to, fairly basic, almost, home style build. That's, we'll see a lot of churches that'll fall into that sort of category. So the more basic ones, if you're on the right plan, we can get those pushed through for you. But generally, the bigger, more complex ones aren't going to fit. Aren't going to fit what we do at this time. It looks like that'll about do it, you guys. So if you guys do have any additional questions or anything from here, just feel free to reach out to our support team. Again, support@hover.to. And then the number up there, 844-754-6837. We'll get you in touch with one of our support team. They're fantastic and more than happy to help you with whatever you need here. I definitely look forward to talking to you guys more in the future. And thanks again for carving out some time to take a look over this today. Really do appreciate your time. And I hope you all have a fantastic afternoon.